So AI-powered robots, they're really moving beyond the labs, aren't they? We see them on factory floors, out in the fields, even starting to appear in homes.
Absolutely. It's a major shift.
But it raises a big question, right? When these really sophisticated machines, often using generative AI now, when they make a mistake out there
Yeah.
in the physical world, well, who's accountable? And maybe even more fundamentally, how do we figure out why it happened?
That's precisely the challenge.
And that's really the core of what we want to dig into today. We're recapping a really insightful Q&A on transparency and accountability in generative AI for robotics. It featured Professor Ransalu Sanayake and Dr. Ashutosh Saxena. This is specifically for our technical audience working in AI and robotics.
Yeah, our goal here is to sort of unpack how we actually build autonomous systems that are reliable, that are responsible. Because unlike, say, traditional software, when AI makes a decision in a physical robot, well, the consequences are tangible. They're real world.
Right, not just a glitch on a screen.
Exactly. So we need to move past just talking about it theoretically and look at the practical hurdles of getting these things deployed safely and ethically.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's frame this discussion around maybe the twin pillars you mentioned, transparency and traceability. For people working in this space, defining them isn't enough, is it?
Yeah.
It's about understanding why they get so difficult with generative AI.
Precisely. So transparency.
Hmm.
In this context, it means being able to understand, maybe inspect how a robot is making its decisions, especially when it's navigating environments that are, unpredictable.
Which is always the case in the real world.
Almost always. But with these large generative models, you introduce new layers of abstraction, unpredictability. It makes that traditional idea of understanding really, really hard.
And that leads to traceability.
It ties directly into it. Traceability is about pinpointing which specific component messed up when something goes wrong. Was it the perception system misidentifying an object? Was it the control policy for the arm? Or maybe just a simple motor failure? But finding that root cause isn't like finding a bug in code anymore. Not in a neural network with billions of parameters. It's a huge challenge we're still grappling with. Diagnosing these failure modes is tough.
And if you can't easily trace the failure, well, that brings us straight to accountability, doesn't it? How do you assign responsibility if the why is hidden inside this sort of black box?
That's the crux of it. Accountability means that when a robot does malfunction, there has to be a clear, transparent, and traceable path to figure out who bears responsibility. Is it the developer, the manufacturer, the team that integrated it, the operator? And this isn't just about legal liability, though that's part of it. It also implies needing mechanisms to, audit this emergent behavior, to diagnose and correct the failures. Accountability is what ensures autonomy doesn't mean, well, ungoverned action, but we still need to allow for innovation. It's a balance.
Implementing that seems incredibly complex, especially at scale. What makes it so much harder than, say, debugging the software systems we've dealt with for years?
I think the biggest difference is the physical interaction. A bug in, I don't know, a search engine. It's annoying, right? But a robot making a mistake in a warehouse or a home or a hospital that can lead to actual physical harm or damage.
The stakes are just fundamentally higher.
Orders of magnitude higher. Reliability becomes paramount. And testing these systems requires real physical setups, interactions. It's vastly more expensive, more complex, and frankly, riskier than just running digital simulations for, say, a language model.
So given that, how do we start building trust? How do we validate these huge AI models, especially with that black box problem you mentioned? We don't really have established standards for this yet, do we? Like an ISO standard for AI weirdness.
No, not exactly. You're right. The traditional ISO standards for industrial robots, they don't really cover AI-specific behaviors or trust. There are groups like NIST looking into it. But yeah, it's a comprehensive framework. It's still missing. And traceability is absolutely key to building that trust, to being able to assign responsibility. But like we said, you can't just inspect the code line by line in a neural net, so validation has to rely on other methods.
Like what?
Things like probing the model's internal states, stress testing it under lots of different conditions, rigorous real-world performance evaluation. But again, all of that gets costly and complicated because you need that physical testing component.
Okay, so if direct inspection is out and full formal verification is tricky, How do we actually audit and oversee these things?
Well, a lot relies on what's often called red teaming, basically stress testing the system from the outside, throwing challenging scenarios at it to see where it breaks.
Right, pushing the boundaries.
Exactly. Those traditional formal methods, the mathematical proofs, they work well for predictable deterministic systems, but they don't translate very well to these big non-deterministic neural networks. So we lean more on empirical testing, testing that can actually scale to the real world.
Any promising directions there?
Well, some work, including from my own lab, has looked at using things like deep reinforcement learning specifically to find those rare, hard-to-predict failure modes proactively. Another growing area is post hoc explanation methods.
Meaning you try to understand after something happens.
Yeah, analyzing the behavior after the system has acted, especially after a failure, to try and piece together why it happened. It's becoming more practical for systems already out there, sort of reactive interpretability.
This really drives home the point, doesn't it? Responsible AI in robotics. It's not something we can put off. The consequences are immediate and human.
Absolutely. Transparency, accountability, they have to evolve alongside the capabilities. We can't let them lag behind. It reminds me of that quote from Professor Sinayak.
Oh, yeah.
He noted something like, there's a lot of work on developing new models for how robots should behave, but far less on what it takes to bring those models into the real world. For robots to be deployed safely, ethically, they need to meet real-world requirements.
Mm.
Safety, fairness, accuracy, traceability, that's the gap.
This is a huge gap.
It is, and he stressed it has to be a much broader collective effort. It also highlights another point. While we have some established metrics for things like bias in online AI for robotics, metrics for real-world applicability, traceability, failure analysis in these complex physical settings, we're still in the early stages. That needs a lot more work, more standardization.
Hmm.
Look, at the end of the day, knowledge in robotics, the capabilities we develop, they're only truly valuable if they can be understood and applied reliably, responsibly. Transparency and accountability aren't just nice-to-haves, they're essential as these machines become part of our physical lives.
So, thinking about this, what does it really mean for you, our listener? I think the takeaway is that the future of robotics isn't just about improving what the machines can do. It's fundamentally about how responsibly we integrate them into our world.
Well said.
And bridging that gap Professor Senanayake mentioned between the lab and the real world. It's clearly not just a technical problem to solve. It feels like it requires a real cultural shift within the field, a collective commitment from everyone involved.
A collective effort, absolutely.
So perhaps something to think about is, beyond the technical fixes, what does that cultural shift towards responsibility actually look like in your own work or research?
It's definitely an evolving question and a crucial one. We encourage you to keep digging into it